Okay, I'll call this meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Councillor Zwaagstra to bring the opening, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm very pleased that we're all able to be here this evening on our first official snowstorm of this fall, I guess. And as the snow was falling, I was sort of thinking of a passage that I wanted to share with everyone here from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And so Solomon writes the following: "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace." And so the reason I chose this passage is that we're in our own season right now. This is our first snowfall of any significance of this at the end of this year, and some of us find it a little frustrating seeing that much snow out there, having to shovel. I know I had to shovel my driveway a few times a day, but this is the cycle of life. This is life in Steinbach, that we have 4 seasons, and there are things we like about each season, and some things that we don't like about each season. But I appreciate winter. I appreciate snow, even when I'm done the shoveling anyway. I appreciate the fact that we're now in the Christmas season. And so as we head back home today, as we see the snow continue to come down, it's a little frustrating, having to wait for our streets to get cleared and all that, but that's part of life in the city of Steinbach, in our area of Manitoba, and I'm okay with that. There's a time for everything. There's a time for snow, and there's a time for summer as well, and that will be coming too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zwaagstra. Councillor Zwaagstra. And it's a very beautiful time of the year too. The snow is just gorgeous out there right now. So. Okay, first of all, I accept a motion to excuse Mayor Gerson from the meeting. Councillor Penner, Councillor Siemens. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, and I'd like to motion to adopt the agenda, please. Councillor Funk, Councillor Susan Penner. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, I entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the November 15th regular meeting. Councillor Penner, Councillor Funk, any discussion? No. Then I'll call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. I'm getting used to raising my hand too. Well, I got reprimanded last time. So okay, there's no business arising from the minutes, and we're not at 7:35 yet, so we're going to go to the back of the book for administration and accounts payable. Could I get a motion to approve the accounts payable, please? Councillor Siemens, Councillor Funk. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. And 2017 regular meeting, council meeting dates are on page 15th. That is for information. And you might want to pull that page out so that you have it, unless you've already put it into your day timer. So it's a good reference. So. And then on page 18, we have the 2016 supplementary added taxes. And Mr. Workney, could you introduce that for us, please?
Certainly. This is a summary of, I guess there's a few summaries that are provided in the following pages. But with the added assessments that have been forwarded to the city from the Provincial Assessor's Office for 2016 and in some cases for 2015, these are the supplementary taxes that have been calculated on these added assessments, amounting to just over $1.3 million, and it requires a council resolution to accept the additional taxes calculated on those assessments.
Wonderful. Could I have a motion to approve by Councillor Zwaagstra, Councillor Funk? Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This is fairly standard that every year that we do have supplementary taxes. And I would like to just ask a quick question to the City Manager, if I could. I know that we budget for a certain amount of surplus every year. Where does this compare to what we budgeted?
I believe the 2016 budget projected a $750,000 supplementary tax revenue for this year, so it's a fair amount higher than what that expectation was.
So I'll just conclude by saying that I mean, that is positive. That means that that gives us a bit more flexibility as we continue our budget planning process. And I know that we've had some years recently where the numbers were a lot closer than that between what we budgeted and the supplementary. But the fact that we have more money that has come in this regard will help free up some money in some other areas. So this will help in our budget planning process.
Anything else, Councillor Funk? No? Okay, then I'll call for the question. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, and I think we're going to go on to 2016 supplementary tax cancellation as well. Mr. Workington, can you?
That is just the flip side. Along with the added assessments from time to time, there are also assessment reductions. The cancellations also reflect changes in assessed values and reflect changes to properties that could be resulting from demolitions or other changes. Recommendation is that Council also pass a resolution to approve those cancellations.
Okay, Council, how would you like to proceed?
Move to approve.
Councillor Kerry Penner, seconded by Councillor Zwaagstra. Got any discussion? Any further discussion?
Just briefly, the cancellations are for things like removed buildings or corrected assessments or revaluation of residences. So there's a multiple of options why that's been done.
And it's good to see that it's a lot less than what the added taxes were. So okay, anything further from Secretary? Councillor Zwaagstra? No? Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, it is 7:35, so we're going to go to the public hearing. I'm going to close the council meeting, open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask Mr. Workington to introduce Variance V-2016-21, please.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor and members of council, this is an application for variance as indicated with a civic address of 474 McKenzie Avenue. Owner and applicant for the variance application is Harold and Linda Keene. Purpose of the variance is twofold. Firstly, to allow an accessory building to be located on the property line, whereas a minimum of a 2-foot setback is required in the RLD residential low density zone. And secondly, to allow a total of 1,308 square feet for an accessory use, where a maximum of 700 square feet is permitted in the RLD residential low density zone. The applicant has submitted the application with the intent to bring the existing garage into compliance and also to construct an addition to that garage. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file. The reports from both the city engineer and city planner are in the information package for council. Finally, the recommendation from administration is that City Council approve the variance subject to the removal of the encroaching shelter and shed as noted in the attached material, and I believe the applicant has also indicated in the application that is also the intent.
Okay, the applicant is, I see the applicant is here. You may want to speak. Is there anybody here that's wishing to object to this file? Anybody wishing to object? Nobody wishing to object? No? Would you like to speak to it, Mr. Steve, if you could state your name there.
Mr. Mayor, Harold Keene, the owner of the property, members of council. Sometimes it's best to remain silent and be thought, not fully aware of what's happening, than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt. But in this case, yes, I want to clean up the property, as stated by Mr. Workington. The building was put there by the former owner of the property. I did have title to it at the time, but he graciously came to me and says, "Let me do that for you." Well, when you're young and ignorant, that's what happens. And then I find out much later we're 3 inches over the line. And we did have a permit to extend the shelter to the west side. At that time, I owned the property next door, which I sold approximately 3 years ago, and to a friend, and he says, don't worry about the shed, leave it there. Well, we can't continue that way. That's not right. So I wish to clean that up, remove the building that's behind it, as stated, and put a building on the other side for strictly cold storage only. No heating, no insulation, no linings. Maybe one light bulb hanging in it, that's it. That's all I have to say about it. Any questions of me?
Is there anybody have any questions of the applicant? No? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. King. Okay, then I'm gonna close the public hearing, and I'm going to open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? If you'd like, Councillor Funk. Okay, second, Councillor Siemens. Yes, Councillor Funk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, this is pretty straightforward, as the applicant did state. This was, both parcels were owned by him. They were subdivided. Now he's choosing to just clean this up and bring the entire parcel into compliance. I see no adverse effects on the neighborhood. I think we should just go ahead and prove this and bring this property into compliance.
Thank you, Councillor Funk. The seconder would like to speak. Nothing further? Anything from anyone else? No? Okay, call for the question. All in favor of the variance? That is carried. Thank you. You can move ahead with that. Is including, the motion was including the conditions that were mentioned, as mentioned by, right? So, okay. Thank you. Okay. There's no delegations, and we have no reports from the city manager. So we're going to go to 9E, the interim operating budget. And Mr. Workman, can you introduce us, please?
Yes, this is a matter of fairly routine business for the city of Steinbach on an annual basis. An interim operating budget is required to be adopted by council every calendar year in advance of the annual financial plan being adopted. So this follows that requirement, and the different departments, as is noted in the brief report, indicates the expected expenditures during that time period, and recommendation is that council approves the interim operating budget for 2017.
Okay. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra?
I'd like the motion we approve.
Councillor Siemens will second that. Do you want to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's, as is noted, this is a routine thing that we do every year. That the budget is, we don't pass, the official budget we don't pass until late January, early February, and so we need the interim operating budget in between. And so this reflects the estimated expenditures, and this is so that we can continue operation, because I think we would like the city to continue operating during the month of January prior to the budget. So if we would like for us to do that, I urge everyone to support this motion.
You almost got us all convinced. Councillor Siemens, would you like to add anything? No? Okay, and I'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, 9F, RBC Borrowing. And Mr. Workman, could you introduce that with the press, please?
Yes, this particular item, again, more of a routine business nature. As part of the ongoing operations of the city, we do make arrangements with the Royal Bank to cover any interim borrowing by way of overdraft in the event that spending by the city requires it. This just is an authorization to continue to approve that authorization as has been the case for many years.
Okay, Councillor? Councillor Penner will approve it. And seconder? Councillor Zwaagstra? Any further comments?
Nothing further.
Okay, I'll call for the questions. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, 9G, tax cancellations. Mr. Workman.
This is similar to the previous item that was on the agenda. However, this is focused on business tax cancellations. The detail is listed in the report that's attached. Recommendation is for council to approve these cancellations.
Okay. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Penner?
Move to approve.
Second. Councillor Penner, Susan Penner. Any comments further?
Comments.
No? All in favor? That is carried. Any questions of council? None? Letting me off the hook easy, aren't you? Okay, correspondence petitions on 11A. I just thought this is a good feel-good letter for us as a city. I think we work very hard at working to make Steinbach a beautiful city, and here we see that others recognize these efforts as well, and have rewarded us with the city of Steinbach, the winner of the Royal Oak and Shield for Urban Beautification Competition in the 7,501 plus category. So I think it's a bit of an honor for us as a city to be recognized in this way. And I'm going to assume that we're going to send somebody there to accept this award on behalf of the city. Take that as information. On 11B, Invasive Species Council of Manitoba. There's a request for support. Does anybody want to recommend that we take any action on it, or we just take it as information?
It's like information.
Take it as information? Okay. Steinbach Chamber of Commerce grant request. Mr. Workington, we have, I think our agreement that we have regarding their funding is still good for another year or two, is it not? We had to make a decision that was the business tax was going to go to them for a given period of time, correct?
My recollection of the arrangement is that it is ongoing. However, just as a matter of process, even with the core grant organizations that the city does provide funding for every year, there is normally a letter of request, just for a matter of record, that is provided to the city, as is the annual financial statements that the Chamber of Commerce has also provided for council's information.
So do we need to take some action on this? Do we need to make a motion to forward the business taxes less the 5% for collecting them to the chamber?
As a matter of course, those decisions are normally made as part of the city's annual budgeting process and would be included in the annual financial plan approval.
Okay, good. So we can take it as information then. Thank you. 11D, the Epp Library is just minutes. That's for information. And there's no other business, so I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Councillor Kerry Penner, Councillor Susan Penner. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.